Hello, hello, my amazing, beautiful listeners. Gosh, how I wish I could just look all of you in the eyes and you could feel seen and heard and noticed and really know that someone is in your corner cheering you on and who truly believes that you will get through this. There are so many ups and downs in this journey. I, I'm laughing because my first thought was actually there's so many ups and downs in this shit show. But then I filtered myself and then said journey. But for some of you, maybe the latter is more relatable. Anyways, thank you for being with me today. I really have loved watching this podcast grow in numbers. And no, I don't get paid to do this. I really value this opportunity each week that I have to share with you what I know, what I've experienced, what I have learned over the years professionally. I know not everyone can get professional one-on-one right now. I wish that there was something like this for me when I was in the thick of it, to just have that playing in my ear while I was trying to just get through the day. The few that I did have were helpful, but I always felt like I was alone in the divorce aisle of the store, because even though there might be other people there, I still felt like I was this oddball out in the divorce aisle, because I felt like I could relate to a lot of what was on the shelves being offered, but it still felt like there were things missing. It was when I realized that there actually is another aisle for me and for most of you. It's the life-saving divorce aisle, the aisle that had betrayal and abuse and narcissism and emotional immaturity and weaponization and victimization and control and fear and tons of self-doubt. One of those that I often see and have felt was this self-doubting statement: I should have known better. Why didn't I know better? Can you relate? Oh, those shoulds. They are just shitty. It really is, however, completely natural to revisit those past decisions that we have made around who we married and question how we might have missed certain signs or warnings, especially now that you are going through or even after divorce. I see a lot of this come up after divorce as well. This kind of self-questioning, self-doubting is actually a part of how the brain tries to make sense of traumatic events in our life and protect us from future pain. It's a protective mechanism. Wondering where you went wrong, wondering what red flags you missed. You may have even seen the flags. You may see all the flags now and wonder why you missed them, blaming yourself, creating even more self-doubt and shame. I really blamed myself, my past decisions, whatever my brain could dig up, like whatever my brain could dig up, stuff from high school, it would dig up and say, see, this is why your life just went to the crapper, right? It was pulling up so many things. It's hard to wrap your head around this idea, understanding psychologically, neurologically, that this is what your brain's designed to do, but it is. And my brain was digging up all kinds of stuff and reasons to explain why I was in the situation that I was in. Because the real reasons as to why I was in the situation that I was in were not being offered to me. It's that closure without full disclosure that I talk about, right? I still did not have all of the truth and the reality of what my partner had been and was doing. So my brain needed to try and find the pieces. So today I want to validate this space. If you are finding yourself in it, there are really good reasons, like I said, why the brain is doing this. I want to go over a couple of those. Hopefully it can reduce some of the unnecessary shaming and blaming that you might be stuck in or in a tailspin around. When you experience trauma, and the trauma brings all kinds of uncertainty, right? The brain looks for the ways that it can regain a sense of control. So it's going to identify what could have been done differently, and it falsely promises a way to prevent future hurt, because there's no way that you can actually prevent future hurt. There's no way we can completely control that. And I know that isn't maybe something that any of you want to hear necessarily right now, It is true. So your brain's going to go to work overtime, especially when you experience trauma. It's going to try to feel that sense of control because you are feeling and have felt a deep sense of out of control when your reality has been effed with. How many of you have already been thinking about possible future relationships, even if the conclusion is no way, never again? I bet every one of you have been thinking about it at some point. And I also bet a big part of your no way, never going to happen again is because your brain is saying you might get it wrong again because you should have known and you didn't. It's doubting that you know better. Another reason that you might be stuck in shame or entertaining thoughts of I should have known better is that our minds, our brains are wired to create stories that make sense and match our experiences, to make sense of our experiences. So many of you listeners have experienced betrayal trauma, right? And the reality still doesn't make sense. It's like when you look at a picture from a year ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, and you look at that picture with the knowing and information, albeit not all of it, it's still more information that you have today than you did as you're looking at yourself in that picture. There's that cognitive dissonance. There's that, wait, what? Right? It doesn't make sense. The person you are divorcing or divorced to is not the person that you married. How they have been acting doesn't make sense. They're acting out choices of betrayal and the escalated abuse that many of you are experiencing post separation doesn't make sense. I remember thinking, he knows that I'm not the one that effed up. Like he knows that I'm not the one who cheated, that lied, that hid. He knows that I have been working and working and trying to hold everything together, supporting him all along the way while he built this business, while we created this family. He knows I'm a good mom. This doesn't make sense that he is now playing victim and acting like I've done this horrible thing by leaving. Without facts, without truth, with so many missing pieces that trauma leaves behind in the aftermath of betrayal, in the end of a relationship like this, the story often includes self-blame because it's easier to believe that we had agency, even if mistaken, than to accept that sometimes things happen beyond our control. The story that the brain can often create is not nice or even true, but it is trying to create some sense of the insensible. The other factor that plays into this, psychologically speaking, is the cognitive bias, like hindsight bias, which makes it seem obvious in retrospect what signs are missed. But this isn't about actual mistakes made by you. Rather, it's the brain's tendency to enhance memory based on what you currently know today. So when going back to the picture analogy or the picture experience, when you look back on pictures or journal entries with what you know present you today, you're going to see the past differently than you experienced the past. Then the brain can easily judge your past and your past self with information that you have today. Do you see how it's not very nice of your brain? Right? So it takes everything that you know, present day you, and judges past self you. These self-blaming thoughts can keep you stuck because they start to foster a negative self-image. Then they prevent you from moving forward and creating future you. And it impacts your healing too, right? Your future you in healing. You might find yourself generalizing these feelings of inadequacy in other areas of your life as well, which is most like if you're trying to find a job, maybe in motherhood, maybe in other relationships, you're going to be doing this in other areas of your life, which is most likely affecting your confidence in making new decisions. And if you are considering or are in another relationship, you really got to look at this. If you are judging your past self in any way, I guarantee it's impacting how you are showing up present self in your relationship, and it will affect future you in that relationship as well. I hear this all the time in my dating workshop and from clients who are navigating new relationships. What if I get it wrong again? What if I miss the signs? What if, what if, what if? Like when your brain does this, it's just mean. It is not useful to think like this. My three pillars of healing are awareness, acceptance, and agency, right? So what's needed here when you find yourself in this tailspin is acceptance, accepting that you didn't know what you know now, accepting that you did the best with what you knew at the time, accepting that you are not to blame. And I'm not kidding. It does not matter. I hear all the excuses. It does not matter if you and your partner had fidelity understood as a non negotiable boundary, nothing warrants the breach of that. So many times women will, and again, the brain will pull up, right? Parts of us will pull up all of the weaknesses, all of the human fallacies, and try to line them up. It's a mean way for your brain to make sense of what happened to you. Well, maybe in some way I caused this because I'm not perfect. I wasn't perfect either. I made mistakes, but you didn't violate the boundary, not to mention all the abusive communication and behaviors that goes along with hiding and deceiving. They're acting out behaviors, right? All of that plays into this. Accepting your emotional response to the betrayal, like anger, hurt, pain, grief, and accepting perhaps their lack of emotional response. And that also doesn't mean anything about you intrinsically. Accepting that healing takes time. There will be good days. There will be hard days. It's a fluctuation and that's normal. We need to accept that. Here are a few things that you can do to shift out of this space if these thought patterns, like I should have known better, are impeding you. The first one is awareness. Let's just recognize and be aware of the brain's protective mechanism here. Your brain is trying to protect you by offering these explanations, even if those are self-blaming. When you are aware of this, call your brain out. Hey, I know what you're doing, but this isn't helpful. This recognition can start to help reduce some of the thoughts when they start creeping in. It can reduce some of the weightiness, the heaviness of it, because we're not going to let it get that far. We're not going to ruminate over it and let it take place and start setting up camp in the brain. Once you see these thoughts start to enter in, call your brain out. Hey, I know what you're doing. I know you're trying to protect or make sense of this, but it's not useful. Okay, call it out. Number two, I am always down for a good reframe. It creates a new neural pathway. Thoughts create your feelings. And when you think, I should have known better, I imagine you might feel shame or frustration, regret. And when we feel these emotions, then it impacts the way that we show up in our actions. Thoughts create feelings, create actions. And so if you are then taking this thought and feeling and action into life and into right, your next relationship, you can see how it's going to impact your results. It's not going to be useful. Perhaps you can practice thinking, this is that reframe. I made the best decision that I could with the information that I had at the time. I didn't know all that I know now. I can't unlearn what I've learned since then. So I will be better informed moving forward. I like that one. That one feels really empowering to me. It's like, I can't unlearn. I can't not know what I know. I say that all the time to my clients. You can't not know what you know. You all listening have learned so much. Even though we might not have all of the truth, your body does. It really does have all of the truth, which is why I am constantly talking about somatic healing and why this is equally, if not more important to integrate into your healing, because your body will give you more of that information. And so you can't unknow what you know, and take that knowing. You are an expert in what you know. Take that expertise, own it, and take that with you into future relationships. I think that would build a really great new neural pathway. Remember that it's okay to make mistakes and not see everything. Invite self-compassion for your past self. so that present self can be free from all of that judgment and shame. And then lastly, at the appropriate time for you, and potentially with a professional to help assist this work, it is useful to look back at past self from a compassionate and curious space, to be able to look at the parts of you that believed what they believed, chose what they chose, why they didn't see the possible red flags, or why they did see the flags and chose otherwise. Were there parts that learned to only look for the good in people? That if you looked for the bad, it meant something wrong about you? Were there parts that needed to be loved so bad because of that fear of abandonment that they brushed aside unhealthy behavior? We do at some point need to see and hear those parts out so that we can heal and shift their roles into something more useful. This is how we prevent those repeated unhealthy relationships, right? Not from shaming ourselves, but from healing our past self. The knowledge you have now is your empowerment. Use it to propel you forward, not hold you hostage to the past. Remember, the past may have shaped you, but it does not define you. You've probably heard that spoken before. It tends to maybe even sound cliche, but I want you to feel the energy of that statement in your body. When you think about you in the past, that phrase of "I should have known better" comes up. Okay? Your past self has shaped you, but it does not define you. What defines you is your ability to choose in present day self right now. You take that energy that you have sovereignty over today. That is what you use to help shape your future. Release the heavy burdens of the should have, could have. I want to invite you to embrace the power that you hold right now. Each moment is a fresh start. Every time the sun rises, it's an opportunity to say, I get to try again. I am alive another day. You are alive another day. You have a gift. You've been given the gift of another day on earth, and you get to choose what you do with that. You get to choose what you do with this new day every time the sun rises and you find yourself alive. I remember those moments where another day I opened my eyes and it was another day and it was just nothing but dread. It was, oh my gosh, another day that I have to endure, that I have to push through, that I have to suffer through. I want to invite you towards a shift and looking at this as another opportunity to choose, another opportunity to practice choosing, taking all of the wisdom that you've gained from past self into present day. And how do we want to use what we've learned to change how we step forward into the future, rather than trying to live present day in the shadows of that regret, because you are the chooser of your life. I hope that this facilitates a shift in perspective. I hope that you can give yourself a hug. In fact, I would invite you to do that right now. Wrap your arms around yourself right now. Tell your past self that it's okay. You did the best that you could with what you knew. Your life is not over. You have so much life to yet live, to yet create. You get to choose that one step at a time, because you can. Take care. Speaking of healing past self, have you been thinking about trying Brainspotting with me? Oh my gosh, it is an incredible modality. As a certified Brainspotting practitioner, I am seeing day after day this body healing happen in my clients. It is incredible. Generational trauma healing, PTSD symptoms, calming down the activation that your body is holding on to. To find out more about this modality, go to amiewoolsey.com. Click on Brainspotting, check out the video I have there, scroll down, there's more videos at the bottom of the page. It's time to heal. It's time to choose you.